Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us on our Thursday virtual community meetings. Very much appreciate you extending the time and the commitment to be part of this. We have a very motivating and inspirational panel that is going to share their perspective with you this evening. So to kind of frame that up and get started, I'd like to talk about, just housing policy and housing in general. So Erica, if you could just forward the slides to the housing policy slide where it kind of shows the difference in housing types.
I know it's been going on for 3 minutes and I have yet to figure it out.
And for those of you that are just now joining the call, if you could make sure that you're on mute and that your video is off would be great. Thanks so much. So here on, if you kind of pull your attention, to the slide that we have in front of us, and for those of you that are on audio only, I'll do my best to explain it. When we think about housing, it's really important. It's significant in moving the lever and the perspective around, economic viability, and then also some of the racial disparity issues that we're facing today. It really does start with housing and access to economic resources so that people can lead kind of healthy, stable lives. And for those of you, I'm so sorry to do this just one more time. For those of you just joining us, if you could just make sure you're on mute so that we don't pick up the background noise, it would be really helpful. So when you're looking at the housing slide right now, in the ideal state, in kind of the American dream of home ownership, it kind of includes like the mortgages. So regardless of the community that you're in, whether it's a community you grew up in, a community you aspire to be in.
Yeah.
Hi, if I think there is, yes, thank you. If everyone could just stay on mute, I'd appreciate it. So just really quick, just as a recap again, there is the aspiration of being a homeowner, if that's what someone wants, in the environment, or communities that they want to be in. If for some reason home ownership, in the community that you want to be in is not a goal or is not an option, a secondary, approach is having a market rate, rental environment or an opportunity to rent in a community that you want to be in, a neighborhood that you want to be in. If for some reason the option for the market rate rental environment isn't something that can be afforded to an individual or a family, affordable housing kicks in. And
thank you.
From an affordable housing perspective, that is an infrastructure that really allows for people in a certain income bracket to be housed, to have a home, so that is something that we really want to focus in on as it relates to the current environment of COVID and the economic uncertainty that we're facing as a nation. So we want to call a little bit of attention to that. If for some reason affordable housing is not an option and things become more of a struggle or a strain, Section 8 or public housing comes in. And that's where, not only is it specifically designed for a category of income levels, but there's also subsidies that help pay for that rent. That's another high risk area. So that middle piece, around affordable housing and Section 8 or public housing, that really is at risk. And we want to talk about that today, because if the Section 8 or public housing environment or infrastructure slides out for, again, an individual, a couple, or a family, you are into homelessness. You are without a home or a house in a community, in a neighborhood that either you're used to being in or you have the resources being in. It makes it very difficult to hold on to a job. And at a very, very high level, it typically requires an individual or family to be homeless around 2 years before, permanent supportive housing or other types of resources kick in to lift individuals or families out of that homelessness. So there is a lot of efforts that Skid Row Housing Trust and the partners that you're going to hear from tonight that really focus on each of these pieces of the waterfall, and specifically around affordable housing, Section 8 or public housing, and permanent supportive housing, because that is the at-risk community. They've been at risk for a long time. It is where the racial disparities are at. It is where the economic risks lie, and it is what we are paying attention to during this COVID-19 time and during this economic crush that we are starting to experience. So that really shapes up the experts that are going to be coming on to this panel, because they're going to be talking about the perspective in which they've experienced housing or homelessness, or their passion and their commitment as it relates to solving some of the challenges that they have. We're really excited to introduce them, and I will be introducing them specifically in a moment. But if we could advance the slide, Erica, would be great. We have a couple of housekeeping items, and one that's really, really important to us, obviously, is our take action slide. We really want to engage, people. We want you to engage your network. If you can, always, I know this is a very competitive time. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of organizations are struggling. But really, to make a gift and to donate to our organization would be really helpful. Advocate for the policies, for the bills, for the issues that are important around housing, around homelessness. It doesn't matter which category it is, but to just lend your voice, lend your platform to make sure that you're heard and that people that are listening hear you and understand how important it is to everyone. We have an Amazon wish list. You can log on to Amazon, and with your purchases, there, it comes back to direct to support to Skid Row Housing Trust. Join our mailing list, follow us on social media, share our information with your personal and professional network. That helps get the word out. That helps broaden our network. And then through network, we get more infrastructure and support, but we also get ideas that kind of get communicated back and forth. So if we could advance the slide one more time, would be great. I'm about to introduce our panelists, and then in just a couple of moments, they are going to be coming on, they're on video, and we're going to start our panel discussion. Our first panelist is a gentleman by the name of Dennis King. He's a peer advocate here at Skid Row Housing Trust. He's also a health navigational specialist, and he is a CSH Speak Up advocate and a member of the TKE Tenant Knowledge Exchange. He brings to his roles his lived experience and expertise and a deep commitment and passion to help others. So we're really excited to have him here with us to share his perspective on this. In addition, we have Heidi Marston. She was selected as the executive director of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, commonly known as LAHSA, in June of 2020. After serving as the interim executive director since January of this year, she was entrusted to serve as a leader in the effort to reduce homelessness across greater Los Angeles. She also sits on the Leadership Alliance for the National Alliance to End Homelessness. Heidi joined LAHSA in February of 2019 as a Chief Program Officer after serving at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs in several roles, including Director of Community Engagement and Reintegration Services and Special Assistant to the VA Secretary under President Obama. So we're honored and excited that she's here. I think there will be a lot of, interactive questions. She has a lot of insight to share. Very, very interesting to hear from her. Our other panelist is Evelin Montoya. She has over 10 years of experience in the social service field. She's currently employed at the People Concern and holds the position of Program Director of CES, which is Coordinated Entry System, and Community Engagement. Evelin earned her bachelor's degree in social service work from Cal State Los Angeles and her master's in social work from Azusa Pacific University. Our last panelist is Hilary Vallejo. She's a passionate case manager working in the Health Right 360 Pilot Reentry ICMS program for Exodus Recovery, Inc. She works with individuals who are formerly incarcerated and experiencing homelessness upon their release. Using her lived experience in her work, she helps clients through providing structure, guidance, and the belief that nothing is impossible as she helps them obtain permanent housing. She does this by providing clients a vision of what their lives can look like after homelessness, the path to get there, and the realistic goals in order to remain and stay there. I believe that one of our panelists is unfortunately not going to be able to be on video, but they will be on audio. And that panelist is, I believe, is Hilary. So unfortunately we won't be able to see her, but she's highly influential. Her voice will come through. We're going to be very excited to hear from her. So with that, I'm just going to switch to video, and if the panelists could come on, that would be great. The slide's going to come down, and we're going to go to the video interactive panelist discussion. Hi. Thank you all for coming on, and very much appreciate it. And I think the only person we're waiting for right now is Dennis. And hello, Dennis, how are you? Thank you. Awesome to see all of you guys. So starting off the panel discussion, the first question is for Evelin. And Evelin, can you help our audience understand the full cycle process of a person that goes through what that person has to go through from experiencing homelessness to securing housing? Can you just walk us through that a little bit?
Yes, definitely. Can you guys hear me okay?
Awesome. Yes, we can.
Perfect. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. So CES and getting into people into permanent housing can be very complex. I think everybody that works with clients can definitely empathize with that. So there's two different ways that clients get identified. One is through the outreach system. We have a lot of outreach workers all over LA County, from E6, the DMH team, LASA. So they go out and identify clients who are currently experiencing homelessness. The next option is for clients to actually go on their own into access centers. We have several access centers across LA County where a person experiencing homelessness can go in, seek services, and then the person who is representing the access center can go ahead and see if the client is actually in Clarity, which is the electronic health records that we use. All agencies that have any LASA contracts use Clarity, so we can go ahead and enter information from the client. It definitely works out having one system where everybody feeds into it, because then we get to know if the client is migrating to other spas, if the client is seeking services from multiple agencies. And we also get to put alerts just in case the client is MIA. So we get to help each other a lot to be able to identify the client, where they're located, and what are their current needs. Once a client either gets outreach by an outreach worker or enters an access center, a VI SPDAT is conducted. The VI SPDAT is about 40 questions that really gets to know the client. What is their past history? What is their current history? What type of medical conditions are they currently having? Mental health? Are they going to need an ADA unit, a hearing and vision impaired unit? So it gives us good information about the client, but also a conversation needs to have with the client about what are their goals. Do they plan on going back to work? Are they able to go back to work? With the VI SPDAT, you get a score. And then with that score, that kind of gives the case manager more an understanding of what is the path the client should take. Either the client can go into rapid rehousing, where they're able to assist them in getting share housing and help them financially for about 6 months to a year. And then the client is expected to take on that rent payment on their own. Or they could enter into the matching world, which is what we call it. And this is where clients get matched to a unit that provides some sort of subsidy. And this is where most of our clients tend to qualify under, because most of our clients are not going to be able to join the workforce. They usually are on SSI, which limits the type of unit that they're able to apply for and they're able to afford. So that's basically it in a nutshell. They get identified, they get a VI SPDAT, they get a case manager, and then depending on the VI SPDAT score and the client's current need, they go ahead and seek what intervention is best for them, either share housing or enter into the matching world.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think, it's a pretty complex process that takes a lot of individual organizations that really facilitate that process. So it was really interesting to see how you broke that down, and it was like very clear the way you broke it down. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
You've experienced homelessness and you work as a peer advocate for us. And again, thank you very much for doing that. You're a great example of how important housing is to individuals' growth and wellness. Can you share either, your entire journey or whatever you're comfortable with about the ability, what it was like and how you got housed and how that has supported your goals? Hi, Dennis, did you hear me? I think you're on mute. I think you're still on mute. So what we'll do, so just hold the thought. We're going to just jump to Hilary and then we'll come back to you and then we'll make sure that you have an opportunity to answer that question. So Hilary, sorry about that. I thought you were the one that was not going to be able to get on video. So glad to see that you're on video. And by the way, beautiful backdrop behind you. So question for you. Sometimes working with clients as an outreach worker can be very challenging. Some issues you might encounter include mental health, addiction, disability, missing necessary paperwork, being able to locate a client that has no permanent address. Can you elaborate or share with the audience, the challenges with these issues and some of the items that you have to do to get through it to secure housing for your clients?
Yes, there's many challenges prior to me preparing my clients for housing. This is why prior to starting the housing process, I connect my clients to the services needed to address their current needs, as well as making sure that I have the client completely document ready before pursuing their permanent housing. As far as losing contact with my clients, I really haven't had to deal or experience that yet. Because once we've hit the permanent housing part of our goals, they're on board. So they're very much in contact with me.
Okay, awesome. Dennis, do we have you back or did we just lose you? Okay, Dennis, we're going to pick you back up in a second. So Heidi, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. Really appreciate it. According to LAHSA and Mayor Garcetti's office, there is about 130 people that are experiencing homelessness that move into housing every day. And that's a really key positive number. But there's an additional 150 people that enter into homelessness, and before the recent creation of Housing Central Command, people waited, for maybe around 10 months from being matched to becoming housed. Can you explain issues that led to its creation?
Sure. And thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here. And actually the number even changed more recently. So as of our last homeless count, we estimate last year we all collectively as a system moved in about 207 people every single day, and 225 people fell into homelessness every single day. So we continue to see that the number of people who fall in is outpacing our ability to get people out. So what we realized is when we were looking at Housing Central Command, we needed to take an emergency response approach to our housing placements. Of course, we're doing incredible work, but there are a lot of gaps. And as you've already heard, there are a lot of complications in the process. Lots of documents that are required. There's not a lot of transparency about what's needed or maybe where people are in the system, what's getting in the way. And because we have such a big system here in LA, we would be the 9th largest state if we were a state. We have a lot of agencies who have a lot of resources, but nobody was talking to each other. So you could have one housing authority who is issuing vouchers, maybe a county agency was providing services, Lhasa was using CES, but nobody had the full understanding of the process from start to finish.
After she's done, say, hey.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you. Just want to make sure, just a reminder to everyone who has joined. I know there's been a couple of people that have joined. If you can make sure you're on mute and your cameras are off. We have 2 people that are being recorded right now. So if you are not aware that perhaps your audio or video is open, that would be great. So sorry, Heidi, so excited. If you could please continue, that would be awesome.
Sure, no problem. So essentially what we want to do with Housing Central Command is create a way for all of our partners and us to see the entire process. It's taking too long to move people into housing, but the number one thing we need to do to fix that is figure out how long it's taking and what are the barriers getting in the way. Some of it are easy things like documentation requirements that we need to get rid of. Some of it is just knowing about a unit that's available and figuring out how we can match people faster. So Housing Central Command pulls all of our partners together and looks at our full process and says, what is it going to take to get somebody from the street to a home within 30 days, as opposed to 10 months, 12 months, and all of these stories that we hear. If we have open units in Los Angeles, we need to be filling them as quickly as possible. So that's what Housing Central Command is really looking to do.
I remember when, from a client perspective, when Housing Central Command first came out, it was really like, how does this work? How's this going to work? How do we coordinate that? And always in the beginning, the change for a client, was always like a little bumpy. Like when we institute change, it's easier for us. But when we were the recipients of change, it was harder for us. But we absolutely see how much work is being put in, the efforts, the integration. So very grateful to you for that. So appreciate it. Thank you very much. And back to Evelin. Currently, California has about 13 different agencies and departments administering at least probably like 30 different programs relating to homelessness, all operating independently from each other. So trying to navigate the system has become a little complicated. Generally, how do you find your clients? And how do individuals looking to get housed find you? And second question, would it also be helpful to understand the ways in which COVID-19 has impacted, your work?
Great question. And I think I just want to say Housing Central Command has definitely helped us out a lot. We've been seeing a lot of clients getting housing faster. So again, thank you, Lhasa, for creating that department. We really appreciate it. So going back to the question, how people find me. I'm not very hard to find, but how we identify clients is that we receive this list called the community queue. We receive this list every week from Lhasa. The list in the community queue identifies every client in the Clarity system that has a VI-SPDAT score and hasn't been matched to housing. And then we go ahead and filter the list by high acuity score, by a single individual, because that is the population that I currently serve. We also look at age. How long has a client been homeless? Does the client have any medical diagnosis? Does the client need a ADA unit? And then we go back into another system that we have. It's called the Resource Management System, and that is where we have our inventory of how many units are in LA County. I only serve SPA 4, so we look at units in SPA 4. We partner a lot with Skid Row Housing Trust, SRO, ACOF. And then once a unit opens up, we look at the qualifications, and then we look at our list of clients, and then we make a match. That's why we're called matchers, just kind of like eHarmony, and we're wishing that hopefully the relationship works out. Once we match a client to housing, we go ahead and email the point of contact, and we let them know that your client has been matched to housing. These are the details. Please make sure that you help your client in getting all their documents so they could go ahead and have a successful transition into permanent housing. And that's usually how we go ahead and match our clients. What a client can do to better their chances in getting matched is continue to work with the housing navigator, continue to get in contact with them, start getting their documents, and start figuring out when were they homeless, who can verify your homelessness. I think all of those are very important for the client to be proactive, and also for the housing navigator, case manager, to also assist them with that. You definitely want to be ready. So when that wonderful email comes up that you've been matched to housing, you have everything ready just to submit, apply, view the unit, and that's it.
Awesome. Again, a lot of work to coordinate, events, and it's really critical to get, a lot of those systems to work together, for that individual. So very much appreciate not just you sharing the perspective, but for all the work, obviously, that you do there. Going back to Dennis, I'm just doing a sound check on you. I see you. I just want to make sure that we can hear you and you can hear us. So Dennis, can you hear me? And if you can just go off of mute. I think you're on mute. The camera shows that your system is still on mute. Okay, we're gonna route some technical support back, to you for another moment, and we're just gonna toggle on over to Hilary. Hilary, Exodus Recovery's mission is to bring the tools for the best possible quality of life to our clients. How does the personal experience and challenges of the individual experiencing homelessness shape the process of housing them and supporting their recovery journey? Can you share how your agency has adapted to providing these services in the context of just in general, but also in the context of the pandemic?
So there's challenges to the housing the clients, especially if they've been chronically homeless or incarcerated for long periods of time. But my clients have been given a step up because they have already had to adapt to living indoors in a shared living situation where they've had that extra support through that first transition. I think this is a huge benefit for my clients. Of course, living on their own is different than living in bridge housing or in jail. But we link them to mental health or long-term case management supportive before they get permanently housed, so that they have someone to turn to if these issues come up. I get my clients connected to their support networks from the beginning, so they are reintegrated into the community as possible by the time we're ready to move them in. I've found that one of the common issues among the clients is general lack of trust. So I work to build their trust from the beginning. As I do what I say, and I'm going to do it. I don't promise them anything. I'm sure I just, I don't do that. I don't make them any promises. I keep in touch with them at least once a week, even if it's just to say hi and make sure that they're all right. And that means a lot to them. As for providing services during this pandemic, I can speak on how our team has been working. We've been able to maintain a normal work schedule and service level while making sure we're taking all of the necessary precautions. We have company policies which we follow for transporting clients coming into the office, so on, but we really haven't reduced the amount of services that we've been providing. Sometimes we need to do things like find out about benefits in order for the housing. We do it over the phone instead of in person, but we've learned how to work around these barriers. Plus, we always share information on how best to get things done, any resources that are available between the members of my team, and creating good working relationships with staff and other agencies has helped us as well.
Well, again, thank you very much for that. And I think it's just really important for people to understand, because these are always the questions that we get, but I'm sure you all get too, of the process of where are we at? How do we get there? What happened? What took so long? And it's complex, and we're pushing it along as fast as we can, as effectively and with integrity as we can too. So thank you for kind of laying that out so eloquently.
Thank you.
Heidi, it's kind of a three-pronged question, but hopefully it will make sense. Can you give our audience some background on Housing Central Command and the goals that you have, the vision that you have, maybe some of the progress that's been made, because we're starting to, that's really starting to settle in now, and then kind of maybe interweaving how the pandemic has affected that, like your goal and your vision, and then maybe just give like what it hopefully looks like for you moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So the goal is really to expedite the housing process, to make sure that if we have open units, they're not staying open, that we're refilling them with folks as quickly as possible, and that we're making the process as simple as possible in collaboration with our partners, so that we all have a good sense of what the whole process looks like and what our role is within it. So initially, we hit some really great strides, especially around documentation, where the housing authorities agreed to accept digital documents. I mean, that in itself was a huge revelation. If you had a permanent disability, you no longer need to bring a doctor's note to certify that every 45 days. So there were a lot of those things that got in the way of people getting housed, because documents would expire or get lost, because that's just what happens. The pandemic, in a way, has actually accelerated some of that work, because it's given us even more flexibility around documentation. So now housing authorities will take, they don't need a social security card, for example. They'll take a certification that you've applied for an ID and a social security card to apply for housing. Like that's a huge lift on our system and our case managers. More importantly, we're working with all of the housing providers. We have hundreds and thousands of units in LA, millions of units. And we don't have one central place where we know what are all of the units, who owns them, what are the requirements to move in, and how do we make sure they're filled. So we're creating a system. You heard RMS reference our resource management system. We want all of our data systems to talk to each other. So we have one central repository to say, at any time in LA County, any of our partners can go and look at our dashboard. We can see how many units are open. We can see where people are in the process of getting matched, and make sure that we all have the same understanding of what's available and what the barriers are. So the key to Housing Central Command is partnership, because it takes all of our partners coming to the table to make this happen, and transparency about what is happening in our system, the data to support it, and then sharing our information so that we can really burst through those barriers that get in the way.
Yeah, I think it's one of the key items that you just pointed out was the systems. Like, there's so much information, there's records, there's data, and I think what a lot of maybe audience doesn't understand is there are units, certain units are funded certain ways, certain people needs, and we got to, you all have to help clients like us, kind of, to use the language earlier, match make the unit to the need, and sometimes that gets complex, and you're really just making sure that you're building this process so that we can get there. So
absolutely,
it was very much appreciated on our end, and we're looking for the post-COVID. It probably is actually indirectly helped us during COVID too. Like, if not have been there, not been implemented, and COVID hit, it would have been a lot more difficult to survive this far. So
totally agree.
Kudos and appreciation to you from us and our constituents. So,
and thank you for partnering with us too. I know it was a big time commitment and a lift, but hopefully it'll pay off for all of us.
Yeah. So Dennis, can you hear us? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can. Lee, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Speaking into your red wire.
Right. Yeah, sorry. Modern day technology, I was on with you guys, but due to the fact with the Bluetooth and I have a malfunction in my laptop, and Adrian called, so I just thought I almost resurrected Steve Jobs or something, you know what I'm saying? Just to, but I'm here, So how you doing?
I'm good. We have a couple questions to catch up,
Wow. Okay.
You obviously have experienced homelessness. You work as a peer advocate. You're a great example of how important housing is to an individual's growth, wellness, success. Can you share whatever parts of your journey you're comfortable with the audience about what it was like, to become housed and how that supported you in your goals?
Okay, thank you, Lee, and hello, family. Again, my name is Dennis King, and I am a CSA Speak Up advocate, and I'm also a peer advocate with the Skid Row Housing Trust. I'm kind of nervous here because I've never spoken to the company, So I always start off by saying the month that changed everything. I was sleeping behind an abandoned car behind my mother-in-law's house. hustling for gas and well, really for beer and more crack. Right there off the Crenshaw and Slauson, if anyone knows the downtown area there, if you'd have pulled your car up, I'd ask you, can I do your tires or get some gas, do your gas for you? So that was my life at that time period before I got sober. I was truly tore up from the flow up, looking like last month's throw up. I say a month because, the first week I got this, I can do this, you know what I mean? I'm okay. The second week, I'm making my $2 here. I thought I was living the life of Riley. The third week, though, it wasn't as fun as I thought it would be, sleeping behind an abandoned car, because a car is not an apartment and a back seat is no damn bed. And so within the fourth week, you guys, to really just, what led me into like starting to get some type of housing was on 2:30 a.m. after running the streets and finally fall asleep. I hear a thump on the top of the car, and it's like a cat at the window looking at me like, "Can I get in too?" And I said to myself, "My God, I got to do something with my life and do something much more better than this because I'm much too bright and too intelligent to be hustling off of Crenshaw and Slauson as a way of living just to get more alcohol and crack." There were some other devastating issues that definitely happened to where I had to go into the Salvation Army. So this is December 7th, 2007, you guys. I went to the Salvation Army that was out for 5th and Central, if anybody remembers that. And I walked in at 147 pounds, I'm like 201, 207 right now. So it was like, this was me walking into this, I wish I had a black pen, but I was looking anorexic. They could have hired me in a zombie movie, if you know what I mean, skinny with a big bald head. But that was my beginning of getting a life and starting a life, you know what I mean? I always loved the Lord. I'm a Christian man, but I had the big book, and I had the big book, which is the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Long story short, after being there 6 months, I went by the Skid Row Housing Trust. And at that time period, the leasing office was off of 5th and Main. It was right there on 5th Main Street. And I got on the CES list, And remind you, this is almost 11 and a half years ago, you guys? And I happened to walk by the St. George Hotel with my girlfriend at the time. And it looked so beautiful. I said, well, I wonder if they would take us in. I was on GR at the time. Long story short with that, I was at the Salvation Army 13 months. And then I had to do 3 more at the Bell Salvation Army and finally got into the process of living. I was been here almost 10 years. So in a nutshell, you guys, I started and I took advantage of the resources. My first great caseworker was now, at the time period, was Aaron Antes. And now I have Carisha Hamlet. So in essence, long story short, I got a good caseworker. I went to the downtown mental health. I got my first psychiatrist, Dr. Drucker. With Kara Klein now. She's still with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm so crazy. She's not going anywhere. I've got Kara. You know what I mean? Then I was taking advantage of the resources. I was taking a yoga class. Skid Row House just has yoga. And I've been with Beth almost 11 years now. But Jason Michael was working for us, and he watched me. And he kept watching me. And I go, why is this guy watching me? He tapped me on the shoulder, and he asked me would I like to be a peer advocate. Wow. To be honest with you guys, and I was like, 56, 57 at the time? 56, and I really didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I became a peer advocate for the Skid Row Housing Trust. About a month on the job, Anthony, my manager, who's still with the company, he asked me if I wanted to be a CSA Speak-Up advocate. I have to tell you guys, through that whole experience, the year course, I flew up north and lobbied for HHH and H, and here I am, you know what I'm saying, flying, you know what I mean, and shaking Diane Feinstein's assistant, and then within 3 minutes, I was able to tell my story, and then that helped show how a lived experience can help. So I was able to tell my story within 3 minutes, and then I lobbied for HHH and H. And then the next year, while I'm working on this job, you guys, the next year, Ann took me again to show me how to get the finances. So I was learning all this, Lee and team, you know what I mean? So I didn't know. I just know I had a story. But it shows how I lived experiences can touch another person's life, especially like up there in Sacramento and up there, with the politicians and stuff, who really don't see the funk of what we do and how we roll down here. You know what I mean? They don't see it. They may hear about it, but they don't know. I'm about to get loose. In my close, all I want to say is this. Thank you, God. In a nutshell, you guys, I was raised and educated much better than that the way I was living off of Crenshaw and Slauson. I go to the Salvation Army. I move into the St. George Hotel. I start working for the Skid Row Housing Trust. I get introduced to CSA, Speak of Advocacy, and with the resources, with the downtown mental health, all those entities, you guys, see where I am today. So I guess I'm a living witness. I'm not guessing. I'm a living witness on how this all worked. Because I didn't think this coming December, you guys, December 7th, I'll have 13 years clean and sober. If you just told me my first year that I'd be working for the company at the hotel you stay at, talking to you guys right now too, sure, I'd have told you, you better get on that starship or something, because I would have never believed it. I know I sounded kind of whimsical, please excuse me, but I just want to say in my close that people are out there dying. What we're doing is needed. I am a living witness from the get-go, from Salvation Army, really from Crenshaw and Slauson to here. And I'm sitting in front of you guys as nothing but God in the process of recovery and good programs, resources, and companies like ours that are helping people to get housed. Thank you so much. My name is Dennis King. I'm a CSA Speak Up Advocate. I'm also a peer advocate for the Skid Row Housing Trust. Let's keep fighting one day at a time, you guys. Thank you. I know I was all over the place, but sometimes my mind's still like that. I haven't landed yet, but my brain's orbiting. So you guys pray for me, okay? I love you, Leeds. Love you guys. Peace. Let's keep fighting now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, as always. Don't go anywhere. We have one more question for you, so stay within our orbit. That was outstanding.
Thanks, man.
So just as like the last kind of round of questions, Hilary, can you shed some perspective and light, or any information you want to share with the audience? Obviously this is recorded and people come back to listen to this a lot more than we think, it does, that they do. But can you share your perspective on how the pandemic really influenced housing and homelessness and Los Angeles, and just a message that you want people to hear and know from your lens?
Yes. I think that when the pandemic hit, as far as like my clients, the clientele that I work with, they were scared. They were scared to go back out into the streets coming out of custody, It was rough. Usually they come out and they go right back to doing what they know best, But this time they came out and they really latched on to our case managers, and the goal was, I want housing. I don't want to be out here anymore. I'm scared, and whether that being the reason that is going to save them from going back to jail. I know with a lot of my clients that setting that goal for housing has kept them out of jail. Once they get stability and they start to learn responsibility, it changes. It's a whole new world for them, something they don't know, So it was a blessing in disguise, So I really appreciate everything that all the teams do, and all the housing and the matchers and LASA, everybody, the collaborative that we put together to be able to help these clients is amazing. And I thank you guys.
Thank you for that. And then Evelin, same question, slightly different lens, simultaneous to this, an equally tough question, simultaneous to COVID-19 hitting us in an election year in the middle of a housing crisis. We also experienced, social unrest and a lot of issues that really brought to the forefront, some disparities that were needed from an attentive, perspective. Is there anything that you would like to share from your lens with the audience listening? Like, the experience that you had and the information that you want people to understand and walk away from as it relates to that?
I think as it relates to that, if you are a frontline worker working with clients, I think keeping in contact with them, having giving them a safe environment for them to talk about things that they may be experiencing at the moment or they may think about. I know sometimes as providers, our ethics are not to get too close with our clients, but I think at this moment in time, we are the only people that they have. We are the only people that can give them hope. We are the only people that can give them the good news and help them out. In regards to housing, the pandemic and everything that is going on this year has definitely added more challenges to this very tedious process. It's harder to get an ID. It's more difficult to get a Social Security. Some people are on unemployment, and calling unemployment, you're on the phone for the whole day trying to get some sort of verification to submit for your housing application. So again, I think collaborating and knowing that we're all facing the same issues, I think it's really good for all of us to understand it. I know we've been seeing right now with HACLA being more flexible with the documents that we're submitting, our housing providers also being more flexible and giving us more time to complete that documentation collection. So again, it's just making sure that we're being proactive, but we're also being sensitive to the current situation and how our clients are being affected by it, especially if our clients are in downtown LA and they're constantly seeing the protests and how people are getting treated. And, you know, that's their home. It's people coming in and invading their home.
Right.
So again, it's just making sure that you guys are having time to have those conversations and being vulnerable with them and just letting them know that you understand and that you're there for them.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because I do think like you just touched on a really key point of making sure that there's a professional boundary at the same time there's a personal connection, and that gets very difficult on both sides, and balancing that is difficult. So the gentleness that you explain that with is much appreciated, and I think it really landed well the way you explained it. Dennis, a question for you as it relates to you working with our residents, other residents, and at Housing Trust. You have kind of firsthand experience, knowledge, know-how during, 2020 and all of the action that happened. What are some of your thoughts on the process and systems that we use that are in place to be housed? And are there any thoughts around like changes or ideas or improvements moving forward now that we've gone through kind of a tough year? Any perspective you'd like to share?
Honestly, when I looked at the question before and thought about my answer or rebuttal, to be honest with you and transparent, when you guys I had worked for my first 3 years at the Peer Advocate office, okay, you know that, Lee. And then with the SAMHSA grant coming through, I moved over to the leasing office. So my point is, I was able to see the plethora of layers that we were going through, to just house a person. You know what I mean? The work that Rachel, Elisa, and the team are doing over there, and Greg and those guys. And then I look back on, I'm just saying that when I did it, like when I had to go through the process, one thing that not saying this because I'm working for the company, but what the company is striving to do now is to cut some of those layers down so that we can get people housed, in essence, with the fact on how I would say, like, if it took like 100 different layers, I'm talking about paperwork, meeting the property manager, and that, meeting us and with the SAMHSA grant and that whole process. If it took like 80 to almost 90 layers, well, now the company's working on cutting it down to like 45 to 50, and which is a good thing. I see now that we're just working together in one mind and one accord to definitely move the process along a lot quicker so that we can move and get people housed. And with the new agency, the Health Navigation Center, and the ENC, all that stuff, the experience and compliance groups, we'll all meet together where we can get this process done a lot quicker, which I'm happy for, because there's so many people out there now that don't need to wait like 10 months and on to move into a place, which is so vitally important. I'll say this again because I went through it. I waited like close to 16, and but I hung it out there. I hung out there. But I just hope that we continue, all of us, continue to work in one mind and one accord, precisely and concisely. Keep talking like this. Pick each other's brains to work together as a crew to make the process happen a lot quicker. And but I see a big difference between when I moved in almost 10 years ago to now, if that made any sense at all.
No, it did. And I think not only did it make sense, it really highlighted, you know, what your co-panelists were talking about, you know, just some of the process and the systems to make them more efficient so that the human being can get housed. So that was.
Thank you, Lee. I just wanted to say this. When you guys sent me over to the leasing office to help out over there, I was able to see and get a better grasp on everything that goes down because I had never, you know, seen it like that. And it's a lot that goes down and a lot of processes and stuff done to get a person housed. And we are working on cutting a lot of those layers to make the process quicker.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And then last question, and it ends with you, Heidi, is 2020 has not been the year that anyone thought it was going to be, you know, in any way, shape, or form, you know, and we already knew it was going to be a tough year because it was election year, because people didn't know how it was really going to play out. But now we have everything we've just talked about, COVID, the social unrest, the political kind of positioning that's going on, you know, and now the economic effect and impact. And you took like the reins at LASA. So that is just like great and outstanding. And we're really grateful for that. So in the year of 2020 and everything that happened and everything that you and your organization have been leading and changing and very passionately committed to it, is there what's the information you want to share with this audience around all of that? Like, you know, LASA's position, your vision, you know, implementing it in 2020 and what that looks like. But what would you like all of us to know that's really important and to advocate and share on your behalf so that we can all keep doing this?
Yeah, thank you. You're right. It was not the year and it hasn't been the year anybody has expected. And what we all know is that homelessness was a crisis before COVID-19. But what was missing was really treating it like the crisis that it was. And it allowed us to really address homelessness like the crisis that it is. We learned that with the money that we know we need, with the political will, the public will, and the support, we can move faster than we ever thought we could move. The fact that we brought 4,000 people inside in hotel and motel rooms in a 2-month period with our partners has never been done before. So we've demonstrated to ourselves that we can do this. We can move faster. We can break through red tape and break through barriers. And so what we cannot do after all of this and coming out of this is slow down and go back to status quo and go back to the way things were. We've made so much progress through this. And so I think this is really our moment to redefine how we address homelessness with urgency. It's a public health crisis. It's a human rights crisis. And so we need to continue pushing that forward because I'm very confident that we can get to a place in LA County where we change the face of homelessness and we don't see it to the level that we have it today. But it takes the continued commitment of our political leaders, our partners, everybody who's here tonight, pushing this forward and reminding people that this is a crisis and we need to treat it like an emergency.
Yeah. And I think that is a really important message that everyone kind of intuitively knows when they're watching and understanding, but really it has a tough time articulating really what kind of crisis this is, really what the rights are. And so again, thank you, all of you, Evelin, Heidi, Hilary, Dennis, thank you for sharing your perspective, you know, with us in the audience, you know, tonight. Thank you for allowing it to be recorded so we can continue to share this, because a lot of people lean in, you know, later to hear this and just kind of reconnect through this. So very much appreciate the perspective that you brought, because it was really around housing, but how it affects human beings and their health and wellness. So you did a great job articulating that. We're really, really grateful for it. So thank you all, and we look forward to continuing to connect with all of you.
Thank you.
So you guys are all awesome. And with that, we're just going to go back to Erica. If you could just take us back to our last slide. We do want to pay homage to PMC and our upcoming gala. And so we're just going to take 2 seconds to just kind of wrap that up and kind of bring it all home and share some of the things that we are going to be experiencing and celebrating here at the Trust on September 26th. So just at a very, very high level, typically all nonprofits have an annual fundraiser. Our fundraiser is coming up on September 26th. We're really excited about having the ability to share a 25th anniversary from our property management company. And I know the slide's not up there yet, so there was, my slide is not up. So I am going to grab someone else's slide and look to the side a second. But we have a property management company, and they have been around for 25 years. And one of the things that we really wanted to share and celebrate this year before COVID hit was just the endless devotion and dedication to their craft. So when you go back about 25 years ago, from a permanent supportive housing perspective, there wasn't a lot of property management companies that really possessed the empathy and the skills to serve, a lot of our clients at the time. So the four fathers and the four mothers of our company really gave this company, and that's what we're celebrating right now. So Trust at Home, we want to make sure that we are bringing awareness to this. The slide is up in front of you. It's our virtual fundraiser. We're really excited about it. We're going to share more information as we get this. Obviously, it's being hosted by Brooke Burke and Oliver Trevena that you're seeing on your screen today. But we also have two remarkable chefs that from Bestia and Babel that are putting together the dinner, for this. So we're hoping that you can share this, with your personal and professional network, for either sponsorship or tickets. It goes right back to our property management company. And I want to take this opportunity again to say that when COVID-19 hits and a lot of the social unrest and rioting hit because of all the things, all the heartbreaking things that were happening, our property management team, our property managers, our assistant property managers, our janitors, our maintenance, peer advocates, our lease people are definitely committed themselves and had to stay in the front line. And typically you don't put, property management and frontline employees together into it. But in our environment, in CFO, it's housing or property management company. And they stayed in the front line. They stayed serving our residents. They kept an eye on the community members that were homeless, and they really delivered a lot of the donations and the hygiene kits and all the things that you all donated to us. So we do want to extend, homage and respect to all of our PMC team members. We're hoping that you can join us on Trust at Home, the virtual evening on September 26th. We're really excited about it. It's great food. It's a great show. And we're hoping that we see you there. To wrap up, just want to say one more time, thank you very much to our panelists. Humanistic and human approach and priority on what we do every day. So thank you to Evelin, thank you to Heidi, thank you to Hilary, and thank you to Dennis. And with that, we got through all of our questions. We are looking forward to seeing you. We'll communicate everything that will be our virtual community meeting there. And again, one last time, really hoping to see you at Trust at Home on our September 26th virtual fundraiser. Thank you, PMC. Thank you, panelists. And we will connect with all of you soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Louie. Blessings. Good to see you.